this particular webinar on curating mutually beneficial volunteer experience um, is to sort of let you in on a secret of how Atma has been able to, provide quality support to organizations, despite all the, funding crunches and, human resource gap that we would have. We were still able to provide high quality work, and, do the best whenever there was a crisis. And we attribute that very heavily to the volunteers that work with us. So yeah, I today just want to take this time to sort of talk about my personal volunteer experience and my experience in managing volunteers at Atma for 2 years, and yeah, different things that I learned from that. Um, all right, so going ahead, I just want to all right. So the objective of this particular webinar is to sort of, given the specific situation that we are in right now due to the pandemic, I think a lot of organizations have had to either let go of some of their staff members or have not had the chance to kind of hire the people that they would have wanted to hire typically in a normal setting. So how do they at this point of time leverage volunteers um, to continue to do the amazing work that they continue doing, and how to also build a relationship with volunteers so that they are more productive, are able to provide the kind of support that the organization requires, are self-motivated, and become sort of the brand ambassadors of the organization. And in addition to that, what I want to make sure is that I'm also leaving you with some sort of templates that we have used within Atma, um, for project management, the kind of interview questions you could ask the volunteers when you bring them on board. Where do you find these volunteers? All of that is going to be covered in this session. Um, Moving on, so the agenda is as is on your screen. Um, let's start with why volunteers, right? Like, why does an organization need volunteers? I think the general need, right? Like, one very important thing that all organizations have always felt is having volunteers helps engage the community. So you are able to sort of spread that awareness about the work that you are doing, about the situation, about the crisis that your specific community is going through. Um, that's like the common requirement that gets fulfilled through volunteering. But other very important things that happen because of volunteering, right? One is you receive a really good, fresh perspective on an old problem that you might have. There might be a situation in the organization, something that's always happened. Um, for example, if you're not able to reach out to enough people, if you're not getting enough social media traction, there are children now who are so good at social media, right? Like they really know how to use it well and gain traction online. So that perspective is sometimes what these volunteers bring for us, right? Um, of course, like one big reason why volunteers are helpful, especially right now, is because of the compromise in staff hiring that we've done. A lot of organizations right now in the sector are not able to hire the kind of people that they would have wanted to hire typically. So that gap could be, you know, is something that the volunteers could fill. Other than that, of course, like projects that are not necessarily a priority, like I mentioned, right? Like social media marketing is not necessarily a priority in the day-to-day life of an organization's running, because most organizations are sort of firefighting in their regular day, and social media doesn't seem like an important thing. But that is something that's important for advocacy, for just being able to reach out to the right people, for crowdfunding, for different reasons, right? So these are the kinds of projects that a volunteer could typically help you do. Um, all right. How do you identify these projects? How do you understand what kind of a project a volunteer can do? Um, the way I would see it, right? Like there are typically, um, I would say like four types of projects that you could put a volunteer into. One would be an urgent project that an organization has, something that does not necessarily have um, internal expertise, something that, either you all do not have the time to work on, or you just don't have the kind of expertise to work on it. If, for example, it is a very specific kind of research and you do not have that kind of expertise within the organization, you could easily find that in a, a college that teaches that particular subject, and those students would be able to do the research really well. Um, Other than that, you could also have projects in which, there is no staff member. Typically, communications is something that organizations don't necessarily have a dedicated staff member. That is something a volunteer could work on. Low priority projects is something a volunteer could work on. Now, one, like, how do you plan a good project for a volunteer is by making sure that you have clear expectations. um, I think from my experience of speaking to organizations when they look out for volunteers, I think often organizations look out for volunteers for fundraising leads, to help them find better funders. And I've often noticed that organizations tell me, hey, but you know what? The volunteer does not really come back with good enough leads. And it just feels like a waste of time because I spend so much resources in explaining to the volunteer, um, what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. But the volunteer never came back with any good enough leads. Now, how do you solve for this kind of a problem, right? By really planning a good project, by making sure that you have specific expectations. An expectation cannot just be find leads. It needs to be, um, find 10 good leads by the end of this month. um, Find a total number of, like, leads of a certain number, like saying that we should be able to have a budget of 5 lakhs by, or like we should have a pipeline of 5 lakhs by the end of this month. These are like giving specific numbers, saying that this is the kind of volunteer I'm looking for is really important. Saying that this is the kind of project I'm looking for is really important. Making sure that you are giving a resource packet. What I mean by a resource packet is to say that everything that the volunteer requires. So if you are should have your, all the compliances, whether your organization has those compliances, those should be in place. They should have all your pitch decks, your proposals, the different proposals you all have sent in the past. Everything should be there with the volunteer before the volunteer starts, so that the volunteer is not uncomfortable sort of looking back and saying, oh, I don't know what I need to do with this. uh, Making sure that the volunteer really understands who is doing what within the organization, making sure that the volunteer knows who to reach out to, when a particular decision needs to be taken. Again, like coming back to say a fundraising um, project. Now, if a volunteer has found a really good lead, the volunteer should know who to reach out to in the organization and who will have the first contact with the funder and how that will be taken forward. Otherwise, the volunteer is just going to do something halfway, will not know how to take it forward, will have sent you an information which will never go forward because you waited for somebody else to, react to that email and stuff like that. So just making sure that all of these pieces are really in place before you sort of work with a volunteer. So some of these examples, right? So, for example, if you are saying, asking a volunteer for to do your social media, then it'd be very specific. You would talk to them about, okay, what is the messaging that is going out from your organization? For example, if Atma gets in a social media volunteer, I would tell the social media volunteer that I want by the end of this month, um, so many new people on the on the Facebook page, or I want so much coming from the crowdfunding that we are doing. What is the message that is going out needs to be clear. What do I require from the volunteer? Do I require the volunteer only to post on social media, or do I require the volunteer to schedule future posts? Do I need them to design it as well? Do I need them to make the content as well? Every little bit needs to be explained to the volunteer at the start. All of this needs to happen initially when you're identifying the project itself, and not necessarily once you find the volunteer. These are decisions that need to be made before. Similarly, fundraising, you need to give them budget goals. You need to tell them how many leads they need to find at the end of the month, whether they're just going to contact them, or are they going to do the cold calling? Are they going to do the first introduction? What are they going to do with these leads that they find? Um, Similarly, just one second. Yeah. Who will take the conversation ahead? What is, like, just, they really need to understand what your organization does, because if they're doing the fundraising, if they're finding fundraising leads, they need to understand what to tell when they cold call. So these are pieces that need to be done beforehand itself. Uh, Moving on, where do you think you can find these volunteers, right? Like, I'm sorry, one second. I'm just sorry about that. Okay. So fantastic volunteers, and where can you find them? There are three kinds of volunteers from my experience of, looking for volunteers for Atma. I think there are three kinds of volunteers out there. One is the intern type, somebody who is a student who, usually, typically, their motivation to volunteer is either because they really want to and they love the idea of social work, or because they want to complete their SIP hours, the social involvement program hours that college expects students to do nowadays. It's because of that. So really understanding before you get an volunteer on board, if it's an intern volunteer, really understanding what is it, that why is the student really motivated to volunteer? Is it just to finish the 40 hours, 80 hours that they need to complete, or is it because they're really interested in knowing about your organization and working on it? uh, the plus points of an intern volunteer, right? They have a lot of time at hand. They will be more flexible with their timing to be able to just, like, sort of give you those volunteer, like, give you that project as quickly as you need it, as much as you need it. They'll be available to do it. They're really good at working on research projects, specifically if you look for volunteers in that specific field. So for example, if I'm talking about social media, I would try and look for a volunteer from a BMM college. So we know in Mumbai there would be a St. Xavier's, a Jai Hind College, all of these colleges that typically have really good BMM um, courses. Those are the colleges I would look for an intern volunteer for social media. Similarly, if I want somebody for research, I would look for students from uh, somebody who is studying a course in like policy making, or MSW, or these different kinds of programs. I would look for students from there. The other kind of volunteer is typically the volunteer who is um, a little more experienced, is working full time possibly, and is still interested in working, or has taken a gap year. This is like a younger volunteer who has uh, completed their studies, has started working, worked for a few years now. They would typically have a little less time to put in the projects that they are doing, but they would have the most amount of experience and professional attitude towards the work that they're doing. They would be a little more flexible to learn and adapt. So if there is a volunteer who is working, um, if somebody who has studied MBA and realizes that for business development there needs to be a certain amount of investment that goes, but organizations are not going to be able to put that investment initially. So a young volunteer, some experienced volunteer, the middle type, would be able to be flexible around it and adapt and find a way to do something with the limited resources. So these, like this middle portion volunteers, are really good at doing that. They usually tend to be a little more motivated, either because they want a change in their career path, because they've taken a gap year and they want to learn something new. These are the kinds of motivations that these kind of volunteers come with. They're a little more diligent in the work that they do. Where would you find these volunteers? You would typically find these volunteers in, uh, if any CSR is funding you, you could easily ask these CSRs to share the job descriptions of the different projects that you have within the organization and ask them to sort of share it in their company, and you'll find volunteers from there. You can also find these volunteers on online portals, some of which some of these portals I'll be sharing with you at the end of this session. The other kind of volunteer is the expert have either retired or are at the end of their career path. They're really highly motivated because when I interview them, they usually say things like, oh, I feel like I never had time initially to do any kind of social work. This is the time I want to do it now. I really want to spend a lot of time, want to learn about the social sector, want to see how I can contribute my skills. So they are really highly motivated. Um, they are quite diligent in the work that they do. But I think one important check there is to make sure that they are um, is to do a culture check with them. Now, what I mean by this culture check is during the interview, talking to them about how they will be reporting to someone that's much younger to them. Uh, this is something I have often noticed during the interviews that I used to do in the volunteer program. Um, where sometimes we would have a volunteer who is an older volunteer who would not necessarily be okay with a younger consultant telling them how the project needs to be done. This is not this is I am generalizing, and I don't mean that everybody tends to do this, but it's important to set these expectations at the start when you do the interview, to make sure that they're okay with this, that they're people who are open minded, who are going to be okay with understanding that we have a better experience of the social sector specifically. They might be good at something that they do, but we would know the social sector and would want them to be open to our inputs in whatever project they're working on as well. And now, where will you find these kind of volunteers? You would usually find them on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has something called a volunteer marketplace. Uh, you can Google this. A lot of LinkedIn profiles will have something called open to volunteering. You can reach out to people from there. You should typically reach out to these people through your contacts if you have any friends and relatives who know other people who are interested in volunteering. This is how you can reach out to them. You can put posts on LinkedIn saying that you're looking for volunteers, and it would usually attract volunteers from the expert side of volunteers. Um, Moving on, what I wanted to do right now is take a little time and ask Amar, one of our volunteers at Atma, to speak a little bit about their experience of volunteering at Atma. Amar has been with Atma for the last 3 months, I want to say, or it feels forever, to be honest.
Almost 4 months now.
4 months, yes. He's been doing an amazing job working at Atma. It feels like he's part of the team and is just like, always working with us. He has a full time job also. Uh, so, yeah, Amar, please tell us a little bit about your experience and a little bit about yourself first.
Okay. First of all, thanks, Grena Vanita, for giving me this opportunity to share my experience working with Atma. Let me start off by introducing myself. I have graduated from HR College of Commerce and Economics from Mumbai. I've done a bachelor's in accounts and finance. And it was during college where my interaction in the social sector began. I was leading a club which had multiple social events throughout the year in terms of having cultural festivals for underprivileged children, having a massive donation drive for 500 to 1,000 underprivileged students. So that's how my interaction with the social sector began. Post college, I had got this wonderful opportunity to work with KPMG in the risk consulting division, and I was part of the risk consulting division right up till November. It was almost 4 years I was part of that, and during that I dealt with multiple clients in India and abroad, advising them on how they can improve the internal processes. So that's been my professional background. And as you mentioned, I've been part of Atma since almost 4 months now. So I would like to start off by telling how I came to knowing about Atma and how I joined Atma. So since COVID struck, I think we were all were at home, and I think we all realized that we have additional bandwidth to do something more which we always wanted to do. and I felt this was the right time to get back to the social sector and give something back. So I started actively researching about opportunities, trying to find opportunities that suit me, because I didn't only want to contribute my time, but also wanted to make sure that, you know, whatever skills I've developed, whatever knowledge that I've gained throughout my journey, I wanted that to be applied in a way that not only helps me develop, but also helps the organization that I'm a part of. So that's why I think Atma and a few other organizations definitely stood out in terms of, you know, having the volunteer page well designed, and, you know, also allowing me to figure out, okay, if I'm volunteering for something, what is it I'm volunteering for? Like they gave brief, you know, detailed description. Okay, this is the thing you'll be volunteering for. Not also that, I think there were also options of, you know, in what areas I could volunteer. There were like 6, 7 options, be it fundraising, be it business development, be it part of project management. So that really helped me understanding of what I want to do and how I want to move forward with this. So yeah, out of all the organizations that I, you know, picked and choose and research, that's how I joined Atma. A little bit more about what I'm currently doing at Atma. I started off my journey in August, and I started directly working with Mary Ellen on the Future of Impact Collaborative, which is a collaborative of 8 organizations working to serve organizations like y'all to, you know, thrive in the COVID, give y'all resources that y'all can work with. So I started off working with that. I'm also being slowly integrated to the business development function, depending on my bandwidth. And also, whenever I have time, I'm also part of some of the partner projects and helping making, you know, fundraising decks, advising how that can work. So that's been my journey in terms of working on projects with Atma. Now, just to give a brief description of how my journey's been and how do I feel. So initially, when I joined, working alongside my KPMG job, I had not much expectation in terms of what I'll get out of this experience. I thought it would probably be like, you know, I'll get some task to complete within a specific deadline, and that's how it will be like, okay, this is the thing you need to do, submit it to me on Thursday. That's how I had expected my volunteer experience to be like. But to be honest, it's been completely the opposite and tremendous. I've, you know, I've got opportunities to, you know, be a part of projects, not just complete the task, but, you know, be a part of projects, take on lead calls, understand more about each project, about the projects we are working on, about the sector, because I was completely outsider when I came. So I've definitely gained much more experience about the sector, and that's how it's been so far. And I think the important thing about this is, as you mentioned, that it's important for us to know, not just think, okay, complete this work, but tell us more about why we are doing this work and what do we need to achieve out of it. That gives me more ownership. I can take more accountability of what I'm doing. I can take more initiative, just because I know this is not the final thing. This is a step-by-step process, and that's our final goal. So I take on more accountability and responsibility, take more initiative. That has been something which I've always wanted when I join an NGO or I join any social organization, and I think I'm able to get that so far in the 4 months, and that's pretty, I think, tremendous, considering I've just been part of this organization for 4 months. I think another important thing as part of the volunteering opportunity I feel is, I think, as you mentioned, like being part of the team. I just don't feel like I'm a volunteer who contributes 2 hours a day in a week. That's it. So I don't feel that way. I feel equally part of the organization. As much as I was part of KPMG, I feel part of Atma as well, in terms of, you know, what the team is doing, what projects we are doing, what are the other team members working on. I know everything in terms of, you know, and this has mainly happened through the weekly team calls that we have, the Monday, Wednesday, Friday team calls, to understand what the team is working on, not just professionally but personally, and feel more part of the team. I think another important thing is that Atma's always made me feel uh, like cared for in this, because I think I have regular check-in calls with whoever I'm working with. Like, people keep on asking me, okay, how's your bandwidth looking like? Is the work given not too much? How am I doing personally? How my KPMG work is going? I have, I think, monthly, I think 20-25 days, I have a call with my volunteer manager, keep on constantly checking with me. Is it something else you want to work on? Are you liking what you're working on? So that gives me room to not only learn more things, also, you know, find my interest. Okay, if I worked on a project for 4 months, and probably now want to work on fundraising, I can do that. I can have a conversation not only with the person I'm working with, but with the volunteer manager, and I know they're going to make the efforts to make me feel comfortable at whatever I'm working on. I think at this point, I'd like to share one of my experience from the past. I also had a very small volunteer experience towards the end of my college with one of the organizations. I joined them. I went for the induction, and then after the first induction, which was pretty good, I came to know what I'll be working on. It just came like a span of like, it was like conference call with 35 people on that call, and just giving like, okay, you need to be here at so and so time, and that's it. And so I never really felt part of that, and then that gradually just I went for a couple of events, and then just gradually just faded off. At that moment, I didn't realize why that happened because I was busy with my college and everything. But now when I sit and think back, I felt probably if I'd had more interaction in terms of with the person I'm directly working with, or with any other person who tells me, okay, this is what we're achieving through these events, this is why you need to be here and need to do this, probably I'd have felt more part of the team. I think another great important thing is, which I did at KPMG and I continued doing it, is like I was not given like strict instructions of, okay, work this way. I was given tasks to do. I was given things to complete, and I was I was told to find your own way doing it. So that made me realize, okay, I can use my own mind. I can find things that I want to do in the way I want to do. So that, I think, leads to more creativity in terms of how the work is being done, and not just in a stereotype way. That really helped. For example, like I was given to work on a CRM system called Streak, which I never heard of. But in the past experience, I knew I had worked on different clientele systems at KPMG, so I knew I could learn this. It was not like rocket science. I could do my research, figure out myself, and not be an expert, but be someone who people can come to about and ask questions on Streak. Which brings me to like an example in Grena. I think recently uh, interacted with Anand from TAP. They were actually implementing Streak, and Grena just sent them out to me and said that, we have Ammar who's doing a fantastic job with Streak. He knows a lot about it. Go talk to him and see how it works. So I got to interact with them, how they're implementing, why they're implementing. I helped them out in the best way I could. So I think that just makes me realize that whatever I'm learning, whatever I'm researching, it's not just restricted to a work that I'm doing, but I can also help other people in doing those things and finding those different ways of working, and being more collaborative, I would say. So so I think that's really important for the work, not to be my work to be extensively used, not just in what I'm working on, but I can help other people do it in that way. So that's been really fulfilling and great to work with. I think I would like to end my experience by saying that people like me in the professional field, considering the whole COVID scenario, there are a lot of people like our professional out there who want to give in more, not just contribute to the profession, but also use their knowledge and skills and see and try different things. There are a lot of people out there who want to do, because now they have the time. For example, I wouldn't be able to be part of Atma if the circumstances were regular and I was part of KPMG. But now, since I had got the time, I was working from home, I knew I could manage the day how I want to, and I wanted to give back. So there are a lot of people out there who, similarly like me, want to be a part of different organizations like y'all, that that they can help. So I think if organizations can just put it out there, explain in terms of how the volunteer program would help the organization, help them, how they can fit in the place, I think that would be great. And I'm sure that like there are a lot of professionals, college students like me who definitely want to be part of great organizations like y'all, and not only grow for themselves but grow as a team, as a part, as a complete organization. So yeah, that's where I will end my experience. Just want to conclude again. I want to thank Grena and Vanita for this opportunity, and being a part of Atma and the Atma family has truly been amazing, and I love to continue working here.
Thank you so much, Amar. Thank you for your experience. I hope everybody has got like a little bit on, the things that is important for a volunteer. Um, I really wanted Amar to speak so that you understand the volunteer perspective of these things, right? I think the cartoon on the screen right now is about, exactly that. A lot of times we find volunteers um, who are experts in something else but expect them to do something that is that we need. It's not necessarily the greatest idea, like it's not a good idea to have somebody who's actually an expert in something else do something else for you. So making sure that you are bringing in the right expert volunteers for yourselves, and using them for the skills that they have. I think one really important thing that Amar mentioned is making sure that the volunteer is part of the team. I think often volunteers do want to be part of the team, right? They do not just want to come do something and leave. They want to know you. They want to know your motivations for working in the sector. They want to know more about the sector. Making sure that they're part of your team, they know other people in the organization as well, and are not interacting with just that one person who they need to for the project. They know everybody, they can reach out to everybody, everybody can reach out to them. All of these things are really important for volunteers. um, I think one important thing for me has always been to make sure that I have one really good volunteer rather than five volunteers who are okayish. So making sure you put enough effort, do enough interview rounds, wait around to make sure you find that one great volunteer who could do multiple things for you and who could do a good job. Um, I think we've also in the past used organizations, I mean, had CSR organizations help us um, with their leadership. So we were connected with Credit Suisse, and what we do at Credit Suisse is we have some of their leaders work with some of our organizations leaders. What these leadership, so the leadership of Credit Suisse, what they do is they sort of are part of, advising some of our organization leaders on strategy, on pieces that these Swiss leaders are really good at. So trying to find these opportunities, right? Trying to find out how can you connect the right kind of people with the right kind of CSR people with the right kind of people in your organization to help motivation. Um, Moving on, I think some really important parts of volunteer management, right? I think it's really, really important to do a culture check and expectation setting during the interview process. Um, I would just quickly like to go over the volunteer questionnaire. This is something that I'll be sharing with you all. This is a sample question set that you could use to, for your volunteer interviews. We at Atma typically do 2 rounds of interviews. The first round is usually the casual round, the round where, um, when I used to do it, we would make sure that I sort of just get to know the applicant really well, have a really informal discussion, let them open up, let them speak to me about why they want to volunteer, what are their expectations from the organization, what do they want to learn from all of this. So that was really important thing that we do. So this is like a questionnaire with, initially introducing your organization first, explaining to them exactly what your organization does, what kind of a project you expect the volunteer to do, just like going over that first, then asking them about themselves, asking them about what they believe is their biggest success. So questions like this, just like, their motivation and readiness. Now, here just below, I have mentioned points for evaluation, how you would evaluate a volunteer at the end of the interview. So these are things that you could go over. I'm just running over this right now. I will be sharing this document with you so you can really go over it, customize it depending on your organization's needs. The second interview round is usually getting to know the volunteer as a person, not just understanding about them in the sense of knowing about their, what jobs they do and what they've studied and things like that. But this one is a little bit more about culture, about how they would react to certain situations. So in this, what I usually do is, like, the first question is around how do they feel about a project changing midways. Now this is really important because as an organization we tend to um, firefight a lot on regular basis. There's so many things that we need to do on an urgent basis that sometimes the projects that we give volunteers might not necessarily um, become like stay the priority a little while later. So making sure, how do they feel about it, how open are they to this kind of change if it happens, how open are they to changing a whole project that they worked on after realizing that times have changed. For example, if somebody was working on um, like a fundraising piece before COVID just hit. After COVID hit, whatever they must have worked on must have changed a bit, right? Like things would have to change. So then how would a volunteer react to it? Would they feel uh, disheartened and not want to continue with the project, or would they actually, you know, take the opportunity and do something better out of what they have? So these are the kinds of questions, things like what has been most challenging for them, how do they deal with challenge, what sort of people are they when it comes to dealing with challenges, um, how are they able to diffuse tense situations. So these are the kinds of questions that we ask and we think is important for our organization. You can tweak these questions, these are just examples. You could try and put some of the scenarios that have happened in your organization, some of the learnings that you have had from your past volunteers. You could try and tweak these questions to understand how the volunteer is going to be at your organization. um, Again, like how do you evaluate this? I have put down some points for that, on what are some of the things that you need to look at. You need to look at their sensitivity to certain things, how aware are they about their surroundings, how good are they in persuasion, in communication skills. So these are pieces that you could go over. um, all right. um, I hope you guys can see my screen about the volunteer management right now.
Yes, Prerna, we
Okay.
can see it. Just make
All right.
it full screen. I think it is right now just showing everything on your tab. Yeah,
Okay. It's
great.
full screen now, right?
Perfect.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. The other thing to do is clear orientation. Now, during the orientation, making sure that the volunteer really understands completely about your organization, about the specific project that they're working on, about the different people within the organization that they need to connect to for different reasons. Just like introducing them to your entire organization, because at any point of time they could need anything and they should know who to reach out to. Making sure there's regular check-ins. um, Weekly works best. Often what happens is we have a volunteer working on something, we just depend and expect them to be self motivated and complete the project and come back to us when the project is over. That usually won't help their motivation, because they often, and like a volunteer like Amar, right? He has a full time job. For him to sort of then, for us to expect that he is going to by himself constantly keep in touch with us might not be possible. It might not be something that we should be expecting from a volunteer. So making sure that you are constantly in touch with the volunteer, making sure they're part of your team meetings that you have, any team activity that you have, just making sure they're part of that, because that builds in accountability, that builds in a sense of responsibility towards the organization. um, Making sure you're constantly giving them good feedback process, I believe, is really really important, because you do need to treat them like part of your team. Making sure that they're accountable to the project that they're working on, making sure that they sort of um, really understand what kind of a quality of project they need to be coming back with, and then giving them feedback on, hey, I expected this to be a certain way, it does not really fulfill the outcomes of the project and things like that. Like really constantly giving them feedback, and not feedback at the end of the session or at the end of their time at your organization. Making sure you give them weekly feedback. um, Also making sure you are giving them some autonomy, allowing them to be creative and come up with projects, and then giving them feedback on what works and what doesn't work, but at least giving them that space to do it. I also quickly want to go over the project plan. Again, this is something that I'll be sharing with you all. This is sort of the I'm sorry, this is not it. So this is a project plan template that I'll be sharing with you all. Um, Obviously, you can tweak it based on what is necessary for your organization, but making sure that before you start working with a volunteer, you know very clearly what project they're working on, what is the relevance of the project for your organization, what are the different deliverables within that project, right? So if I say business development is a task that a volunteer is doing, then what are the specific deliverables? Do they have to create the pitch deck for your organization? Do they have to come up with the content and the design? Do they have to come up with the proposal for the organization? How many people do they need to reach out to for to share the proposal? All of those pieces are deliverables that you need to add. You need to add the timelines for it. You need to tell them it needs to be done at certain point, like, at different times. These are the timings that you need to do it in, and all of that. Making sure they're comfortable with these timelines, you share that with them. The resources within the organization that would be required. So if they are working on a proposal, you need to be sharing with them your past proposals, the different documentations that you have, so that they can pick from there and create a proposal for you. Um, Maintaining something like this, right? Like a project plan. So you constantly, whenever you check in with them, you go back to this and look at it and tell them, oh, this part is over, this is not. Can we review this? Can we do this? Can this, giving feedback on each of the pieces that they're working on. Another thing within this is also a little bit on like getting to know the volunteer. This is not necessarily the interview session. This is after the volunteer joins. Also, like really understanding the work, what are the skills that they think they really have. How are they going to show that skill? So like just putting those things down. Doing a project quality checklist is important. So this is something that we use at Atma a little bit, making sure that these little pieces are checked. And there's also an exit feedback piece, again, to understand how well you have worked with a volunteer and what better you could do to make sure volunteers feel comfortable in your organization. All right. So this is just, another cartoon I found online. And this is something that I have personally experienced a lot of times. That when I used to look for volunteers, I would get messages like, how much are you going to pay? To be honest, like while this is funny, I think it's important for us as an organization to understand that when a volunteer is working with us, what are we giving back to them? What do they receive from the experience of volunteering? And that experience, that return should not just be the satisfaction of working in an organization, but should be a little bit more. We should try and curate an experience for them where they learn new things. They feel part of the community. They feel like whatever they've worked on has made a difference and makes a long-term difference in the community. Um, oops, just a second. Yeah. All right. So how do you build an inclusive community of volunteers in the organization, right? This, I believe, is the key to a happy volunteer. At least at Atma, this has been our experience, that making sure we have a good relationship with the volunteer, um, a good feedback culture within the organization has been always been important to us, and open communication has been important. Now, what I mean with relationship building, right? Like, I think something that Amar mentioned, that whenever we do check-ins with volunteers, we also check in on them on the pulse of how they're feeling at the moment, because they're not necessarily just working with with your organization, right? They have so much more going on in life. Especially now, given COVID, it's become really, really important to make sure that a person's mental health is, really on point before they can actually work on anything and be productive. So just making sure that you're checking in on the volunteer as well, and not just on the projects that you're working on. So like making sure they're okay at their workplace, making sure everything at home is going well. All of this makes a difference. And this is not like, this has always come to us, and we've realized, like, I have made such good friends with some of the volunteers, and it's always been great making, like, building that relationship with volunteers. And it also goes a long way in making sure that these volunteers are continuously motivated to help your organization, and are being creative, are bringing so much more to the table when they are happy. um, Feedback, again, it's not it's not necessary to just give feedback on the work that they do, but it's also important to give them feedback on the way they behave in the organization. For example, like, in this part, right? Like it's always been important to me that I, or everybody at Atma for that matter, that we don't randomly cancel meetings with volunteers. Um, I have noticed this in the past that some of, you know, some of the partner organizations that we worked with, and sometimes volunteers would be pissed off about something, and it would always be about, oh, the partner keeps canceling meetings. The partner keeps like doesn't care about my time. This is really important. Often what happens is maybe there is something really important and something's come up and that's why you're canceling a meeting, but making sure you have that open communication with the volunteer. You let the volunteer know what has happened, why you're canceling a meeting, or otherwise just making sure you do prioritize the work that the volunteer is doing for you. So when you're bringing in a volunteer, make sure it's the priority for you. If that task is not a priority, if you realize you do not have internal bandwidth to keep a check on the volunteer, have a conversation with the volunteer, then don't get the volunteer at that time. Get them when you have more time on your hands. um, and of course, like open communication always. Like I think often volunteers have come back and told us, hey, it's really nice that you make us a part of your team meetings. Let us know what is happening with the organization. During COVID, whenever we were taking decisions of um, any kind of human resource decision we were making, any kind of changes we were doing in the organization, we always kept the volunteers um, in the know of it all as well. So making sure all of this, right? Making sure the volunteers part of your team, this will help you have a happy volunteer in the organization. Um, all right. I think that's about it from me. I think we can open up for questions, Vanita.
Yes, we will be opening up for questions right now. Thank you so much, Grena, for all of that information. We have some questions that have come in while you were speaking. So I'll take that in bits and pieces. However, like if you all have more questions regarding different processes, challenges, if you all can also share some of your experience, that'll also be great. But one pressing question that came up in the chat box, Grena, was that a few organizations are saying that organizations should also include sort of community workers or communities themselves for volunteering projects. What is our take on that? Like, how do we go about it? Would the process remain the same, or how would it change, and like how would we do that?
I think if you mean field workers on, working in a specific community, I think organizations have often used um, work, from, volunteers from the community to do various things. I think that is more important than anything else. I think it's really, really important that when you have people within the community volunteering for your organization, um, one is that you're able to reach out to the community better, right? Because these volunteers become a voice of the organization and a voice of the community, so you know both the sides of the work that you do, and that's really, really important. I think at Atma as well, like I think for us it's been really important to have volunteers from um, like for us specifically, when we work with partner organizations. So the way we've made this possible is by having more and more volunteers from India work for us, volunteers who are in the corporate sector who don't necessarily entirely understand the problems that organizations face. Um, this is how we've like involved the community in working with us. But yeah, I do believe that community volunteers are really, really important.
Sure. I would also like to add on that a little bit as well, in terms of like, there's quite a little bit of difference in terms of engaging community for participating in terms of your programs and volunteering. The objectives of volunteering remain as filling in pieces for talent in your organization to achieve certain goals, while engaging communities could have different objectives. It could be for developing your programs better, or ensuring your objectives of your organization are meeting better. So those two are very different objectives. Based on that, you could decide how would you engage them. Chris in the chat as well, again, like regarding the same topic, was asking, there would be ways where community workers might ask for remuneration in case if they are volunteering in certain pieces. Then how, and there would be times when the volunteers would also be working in the community when they have not probably been in the community. How do you ensure that you create heterogeneous groups, given that volunteers and community workers may have to work together? And how do you involve them in the civic engagement?
I think this is something that I've usually, I mean, if I've got the question right, I think making sure that there is a heterogeneous, group while working in the community, I think that happens when you set the expectations right, right? If you sort of during, which is why I always believe interview process is really important. So if you are onboarding a volunteer, what kind of expectation settings are you doing? If somebody, like if it's the community person working as a volunteer for you, and if you do have a certain budget to provide to them, maybe not calling them volunteers and calling them community workers or calling them something else, and then people outside the community who want to volunteer, calling them volunteers and not providing them remuneration is fine. Like I think volunteers not getting remuneration, I mean that's what uh, volunteering means, right? Like without remuneration. So just like maybe making that difference between these two groups. But when it comes to their motivation, like Vanita said, like their objective, like the objective of you having a volunteer is really important. So for you, a community volunteer would be somebody who would sort of probably, the objective would be different. It would be more of being able to reach out to a community that you would otherwise not be able to reach out to, having an inside person. And an outside volunteer is more of like is bringing a certain kind of skill or perspective. So those objectives are different, and then interview sessions, like onboarding of both those will be different. I hope that answers your question, Chris.
Great. I think it does. In case if we were not able to answer, do ask a little bit of follow-up questions. We would definitely like to make sure that we are sort of putting the point across and like helping you understand this process a little better. But we have some more questions in terms of, again, large scale projects. Grena, if you can tell us a little bit about how do you go about managing volunteers ranging from 50 volunteers to 1 lakh volunteers for organizations who are completely managing through volunteers? How would they go about doing that, and how can they make it more efficient? There's a question about, is there any standard process of volunteering onboarding that is followed at Atma? I think you did cover that, but if you can quickly run us through the process in a minute.
Yes. So I think depending on the kind of volunteering, what the volunteer is really doing, the task, the process at Atma usually is 2 rounds of interviews and then an assignment in case it is something to do with like technical skills. So if obviously, like if I need somebody to work on design, I would want to see their assignment, want to see how good they're at design. But that is how the process would go. When it comes to large scale volunteers, right? I would say that if you have a big group of volunteers, like I think within Atma, it's always been important for us to have like specific conversations with different volunteers, not just like bring in a bulk group of volunteers, talk to them, always address them in a group and never personal addressing. That usually does not bring as much motivation. But in case your specific program requires large number of volunteers, the way I would do it is also to have like lead volunteers or volunteers who are sort of then reaching out to smaller groups, having like older volunteers who've already worked with you for like a year or two. You can see somebody has good motivation, using them to communicate to other volunteers and them to sort of connect with other volunteers, and making sure that they you still have personal interactions with volunteers by a volunteer representative. So I think that's important, like making sure still that with every volunteer you have direct communication, either somebody within the organization, a specific staff member who does this, or a volunteer representative who does it for you.
Great.
Does that answer your question? I think there were parts of the question.
Yeah, I think you were able to touch upon most of them. And I think in the interest of time, we'll take like two more questions. One question is regarding trainings, and there are organizations who would have to train volunteers. What is the process we follow at Atma in terms of training volunteers? How can we make training processes more efficient?
I'm on mute. Okay. I think training process again needs to be very customized. If you have student volunteers, they would need a different kind of training. Now, training does not necessarily just need to be technical stuff, but it also needs to be about the community that you're working in. I think one thing we often forget is that the cultural context sometimes for a volunteer and your community is different. So like a very important part of your training is culture setting, like contextualizing the community that that the volunteer will be working in is a very important part of that. Often at Atma, because it's been one-on-one with volunteers, the training has been conducted directly by the consultant, and we've always had sort of like this one person mentoring the volunteer. So the volunteer is never doing stuff by themselves. They have somebody like looking over the work that they do. This again depends on what kind of a volunteer you have. If you have younger volunteers, they would require more training and mentorship. If you have older volunteers, they would probably just require motivation and support wherever they need it, and you wouldn't have to push them too much. So just like customizing that as well. So if you do have like a large group of volunteers, dividing them again into their age groups, their experience group, all of that matters, because if you bring in an older volunteer with a bunch of younger volunteers and do the same kind of training, the older volunteer might end up feeling like they're not part of the group. So just like always, your training also needs to be very, very customized to the kind of people that you're reaching out to.
Yeah, Kabir from actually SEF has shared one interesting approach that in the chat box. One of the approaches that we have followed, we have tried, is to have smaller volunteer groups who can then be each other's support system. In that case, giving clear indications for the small group meetings like small learning assignments, etc., will be a key thing. So thank you so much, Kabir, for sharing that. That's really useful for the group as well. Just in terms of closing, I would take one more question that came from Moan Kimi, who says that I love the idea regarding the regular check-ins with volunteer on a weekly basis. If we have around 50 volunteers, how can we ensure that we are keeping in touch with every one of them? Grena, if you wouldn't mind, like I can take a part of that question, and if you have anything to add, like you would go ahead. Thank you so much for that thought, Moankimi. I think it is definitely very, very important to have check-ins with the volunteers, whether they are 5 volunteers or 50 volunteers. Again, dividing them into, like, one person shouldn't be managing more than 4 to 7 volunteers at max. Like that would be like the highest I would go. When you keep that small group, it's easier to have check-ins. And check-ins wouldn't have like an elaborate 1-hour meeting where you're like having like a very deep discussion. But checking in, as it means, is checking that person, seeing how they are doing, what are they liking, what are they not liking, if there are certain things that are coming up. Those would be conversations that are important to have with, like, above and beyond your project. That person feels heard, the trust is built. We generally do it once in a week or once in 2 weeks to for a half-an-hour session, and depending upon what kind of volunteer it is. Some volunteers require larger, like a longer check-in. Some volunteers require a small, like a shorter check-in. That again comes from your management practices, how you feel comfortable, how you manage your teams. But that would be my piece. But Grena, you could like close this on a few more thoughts, and then I think that brings us to the end of the webinar.
Yeah, I agree. I think making sure you're checking in with every volunteer is important. And like when you have too many volunteers to check in on, it might happen that somebody falls through the cracks. So then, like I said, right, like what's important here is to either like identify volunteers who are more self-motivated, who are more like, interested in doing stuff, who have been with your organization for a while, you know them well enough, maybe they could check in for you and then let you know what's happening. Another way to do it is also to do a group check-in. If it's really a large number of people, you could have, say, a volunteer representative checking in on everybody, and then you doing a group volunteer check-in, right? Like having everybody on a monthly basis and just like, hey, how are things going? Do you all have any difficulties? This volunteer group check-in also helps with in terms of like, if there's a particular volunteer who's facing a problem, maybe all volunteers are facing similar problems, but they would never know because they probably don't even know each other and talk to each other well. So then this would help like bring out the problems, create a volunteer community, so all of them get to know each other, connect with each other, start talking to each other, finding solutions for each other. So that also helps. So like bigger groups, like large groups of volunteers, you could break them into smaller groups and let them check in with each other while you are part of the check-in as well. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Grena. That was really, really informative and helpful. I hope we are able to manage to address a lot of questions that came on the chat. In case we haven't, we will be sending out an email post this webinar with a feedback form. Do provide your feedback. It just helps us to like improve our webinars further, and we can come up with like topics that are of your interest and something that really concerns you and your organization. And the feedback form will have a section where you can put down any unaddressed questions that you might have. We will try to get back to you and respond to you to the best of our possibility. But on that note, again, I would like to thank Grena for taking out the time to share her experiences with us. And thank you for your participation, everyone. Until next time, goodbye. Have a great day and a great weekend.